Number 1. I want an abortion and a divorce. I came to this sub because I want to tell this to somebody, and it seems that I can only keep it to myself. I cried for several hours. I am very scared and tired, so I think I will be rambling. I just want to put this somewhere, and my husband and his family don't know English, so this place makes me feel safe. I learned that I am pregnant this morning. I don't know how long that has been. I told my husband the next moment I knew. He was happy. He told me he was glad. He was very happy when he left to meet his parents. I opened my door today to my mother-in-law and him. He did not tell me she would come, and he knows I don't do well with unannounced visitors, especially of that importance. It was her second or third time on our apartment, but she acted like it was hers. She ordered me to sit, and I felt so anxious. My heart was beating so fast, it all felt so unsafe. I kept looking at my husband, but he never looked me in the eyes. He was looking at the floor or at his hands. His mother demanded a paternity test right after congratulating me. It felt so awful. She didn't say anything rude or bad, but it felt like she did. It felt like she called me a prostitute. I was shocked, and I kept trying to get my husband to look at me, but he would not. She noticed and ordered me to look at her, and that her son would not help me. It felt so scary. She started to threaten me with the lawyers that are friends to their family. She told me that if I was smart, I would go with her to the clinic tomorrow, and this will all be over with. It felt so awful. It felt like I was completely at the mercy of this woman. It felt like she could just grab me and put her hands inside me herself, and my husband would not protect me. And the most disgusting of all, it felt like she somehow did that. It felt like she somehow put her hands inside me and tainted whatever is there. Whatever I felt for my husband died at that moment. After the shock and the fear, I felt disgust for him. I felt sick sitting there. He looked so disgusting and pathetic sitting there, silent, not protecting me. It felt disgusting that I ever let him touch me, let him do this to me. Like all the love I had for him was tainted too. All I managed to say was that I need time to decide. She told me there is nothing to decide. I told her that I am shocked and I need time. She told me that this was what she was afraid to hear, and it's all very clear to her. It felt like I would throw up. I wanted to cry so badly, and my voice was shaking, but I didn't cry. She said that she is sorry that it had to be this way, but she gave me 3 days. My husband stood to see her out, not saying a word to me. He went to see her to her car, and I was left alone. I immediately cried. I felt so scared. I felt like they could barge in and just take it out of me if they wanted. Like they thought so little of me. Did my husband always think that I was cheating? Or did her? Did they always look at me and thought that I am unfaithful? Several times I tried to throw up because I was crying so hard. Why didn't my husband protect me? This is not who I married. The last time I felt so unsafe was when I was in my parents' home, and I vowed that I would never feel this way again. I married him because I felt like he could protect me, and he didn't. I still feel sick and disgusting for letting him touch me, for being pregnant by him. When I heard him come back, I locked the door to the bathroom, and I have been there ever since, crying. He didn't say a word to me. I am waiting for him to fall asleep, so I can fall asleep on a couch we have in the kitchen. I don't ever want to be in the same bed with him again. I may not think clearly, but I want a divorce. I will never feel safe with this man, and I would never love him again. I know that for certain. I will never be sure that he will protect me. I can't stay. The thing that makes me scared is that I want an abortion. It was the first thing I Googled. What I have inside me is his. It ties me to him and to his mother. I want it out. While I was crying, I scratched my stomach unintentionally, and now it all red and itching. I can't think about what is inside of me without crying in hysteria. I want out. I want to be safe. It's strange and cruel, but I don't feel bad for wanting a divorce. I will lose the future that I wanted, and all my friends, and I will have to start all over again, but I did it once when I left my birth house. I will do it again. I feel nothing towards what is inside of me. It reminds me of his mother, and it scares me. I want it out. I never thought about abortion before, never been around pregnant people much. Right now, I don't feel anything, but writing this post helped me calm down, and I sort of have a plan now. I don't know if I should move out first or go to a doctor first. I am afraid they will lock me if they find out. For some reason, this reminds me of the time I left my parents, and my head feels clear. I am not so panicked anymore, and I mostly feel numb. But I was crying a lot earlier. I guess that's all. I want to sleep and I need to go to work tomorrow. I think that is good because I have the excuse to be out of the flat. I don't feel safe here. Thank you for listening. I have no friends to tell this to. Number 2. My doctors told my husband, 30M, and I, 31F, that our baby has many birth defects. I want to abort, he does not. This was a planned baby, and I'm absolutely devastated. Me and my husband met in college and have been married for 6 years now. We have one son who is now 4 years old. I know some people are going to wonder, but yes, we did discuss our moral and political views before even getting engaged, and we're both pro-choice. When we were 21 and 20, we made a stupid mistake that ended in a pregnancy. We were both flat broke and not at all ready for kids. I decided to terminate, and he fully agreed with and supported me. He loves our son so much and is an amazing father. He confided in me that he loved the idea of having a daughter as well. Luckily, we're in a good financial place, so I agreed, and we started trying for a second baby. We conceived fairly quickly and were overjoyed. We also soon discovered that we're having a girl. My husband was so excited. As soon as he was told, he went all out and started to plan her nursery. He asked our son to help him pick which shade of pink he wanted, which crib to get, what the theme should be, etc. It was all so adorable. At our last doctor's visit a few days ago, we were given the news that our daughter has severe birth defects. They think that she could possibly survive the birth, but any life that she gets to experience will be painful for her. There have been medical cases of babies with the same conditions to survive from early childhood to even the teenage years rarely. These poor children suffer with so much pain and are uncomfortable their entire lives. They are very low functioning and need around-the-clock care, as well as several uncomfortable surgeries to try and give them a better quality of life. We were both heartbroken and cried for hours together in the car. Then we drove home in silence. Neither of us said anything until my husband began to quietly mumble his thoughts. He was going on and on about how we needed to schedule another doctor's appointment so we know what medical equipment we'd need to buy for her, and we should renovate the nursery again so we could care for her more easily. He said that he'd definitely have to talk to his boss so he can take a longer paternal leave. He wants to be by her side in the neonatal intensive care unit until we can take her home. He talked about how we'd have to ask his mom to babysit our son more often while she's a newborn. He even said that maybe we could sell one of our cars, move to a smaller house, and take our son out of private school so we'd have more money to pay for our daughter's care. I was silent until he asked me what I thought. I was blunt and said that I think we should terminate the pregnancy. Now I feel bad for saying it that way, but I was still frazzled from the news. This made him very upset. He began to cry and ask why I don't want our daughter, even with disabilities. I mentioned our previous abortion. He said it was different because it was unplanned, and we had no way to take care of the child. Now, we're in a pretty good place, financially, so theoretically we could shoulder the cost of our daughter. I have a bit of personal history with this type of situation. My best friend in high school was at my house all the time because her parents were way too busy with her severely autistic older brother. They did love her, but she was pushed to the side her entire childhood. I told him this story. He said that we'd do better by our son and daughter. My best friend's parents were stupid for having a second kid after they already had a disabled one. He then seemed hopeful for a minute and asked if I was just afraid. He promised that he'd be by my side the whole time and we could do this together. I told him it's not about fear. Our daughter will be in pain constantly if she's born alive. It would be a short and painful life for her. I love this baby so much already. I don't want her to suffer like that. He began to yell that even if she doesn't live long, we could still pour our hearts and souls into making her life as fulfilling as possible. I didn't respond and he stormed inside. It's been a couple days now and he won't even look me in the eyes. He sits in the new nursery for hours. Our son is very confused. I know he's grieving, but I really don't want to go further with this pregnancy. I love him so much, I have no idea what to do now. Update. After I made my original post, my husband and I rushed to get a second opinion. Nothing changed and it was still our originally diagnosed. Once I learned that, I scheduled the termination for as soon as physically possible. I didn't tell my husband at first. He kept on raving about how we could give her as much love in her life as we can. I feel bad for this now. But I snapped and angrily told him I was terminating the pregnancy. That I know how he feels, but I will not allow my daughter to suffer just because he wants to love her. He was very angry with me after I put my foot down. After he realized his pleading wouldn't change my mind, he didn't speak a word to me. It was like he refused to even acknowledge my existence. I was terrified that he'd go and leave me all alone with the scraps of our family. I tried to explain it to my son, but I think he still doesn't understand. Then, the night before the procedure, he stepped into my room and apologized for everyone and promised to be more supportive of me from now on. I was so happy and relieved I started to sob, and he held me all night. My original plan was that my mom would drive me to the hospital. Then once it's done, a close friend would take me home. Since it was only the night before, he said he couldn't miss a full day of work, but really wanted to drive me home. I agreed to let him, and then the procedure was done in the morning. My son is having a long sleepover with my best friend's family. I don't want him to see me like this. The next morning, the termination was done. It went fine, with only minor physical pain, but the emotional toll was crushing. After I was done, he didn't show up to get me. I waited for hours and he wouldn't answer any of my calls. I ended up having to call a friend out from work to take me home. When we got there, I saw just one note on the counter saying he can't do this. A few of our daughter's special toys were removed from her nursery. My entire life has fallen apart in a matter of days. I asked my mom to watch my son for a little while. I still can't contact my husband. Everything feels so pointless. Number 3. My girlfriend has a gift and I'm terrified. Okay, this sounds insane, but I don't know anymore. I, 27M, have known my girlfriend, 24F, for around 7 years, and she has always been a bit odd. Not in a bad way, but she's very empathetic and too kind for her own good. She also has chronic depression, anxiety, and BPD. A few months into us dating, she would do this thing where she would text me to hydrate, eat, stretch, relax my muscles, the works. I didn't think much of it honestly. Like, those are very common things people forget to do. Then she got more specific, example being, hey, pop your left shoulder or it'll start to hurt later tonight. Or she would buy me foods I was craving without me asking. Or send me reassurance when I was feeling low. Even those, however, I was able to brush off with ease. Like what nearly 30-year-old doesn't have aches and pains. You know, it was like that for months. And occasionally I'd ask her how she knew I hadn't hydrated all day, or how she knew I wanted one of my cravings. To which she would always respond with, "It's a gift. Cool, huh?" I figured she was bluffing and kept getting lucky. Now, I don't think that's the case. Last week she called off work and rushed over. I asked her why she felt the need to do that, and she said she felt compelled. An hour later, we got the news a family member I was close to passed. Here I have to note, she is close with my parents, but they don't talk outside of family gatherings, so there's no way she would have known prior to the call. She stayed by my side the rest of the week and confided in me that she was a different religion than I am. She's a Hellenistic pagan, and I'm a Baptist, and that she got the urge to call off work when she was cleaning up her altar. I was a bit shaken up, but ultimately, I was just glad she was there with me. This weekend, we went to visit her dad. She suggested it because he lives outside of a tourist-trapped town and we could use the vacation. I agreed, and it was a fantastic trip. On the ride there, she confessed she doesn't like my job because it's dangerous. It wouldn't be, and I don't think it is at any of the other shops, but we simply don't have the equipment to do what we claim we can. So we have to jerry-rig quite a bit. I explained this to her, and she just reiterated she wants me to be careful. I promised I would be, and she dropped it. I had tried my best to not tell her about how sketchy it gets sometimes, or that we actually had a workplace incident recently, but the way she talked, it felt like she knew. Throughout the drive from her dad's to the town, the drive was anxiety-inducing. We are talking heavy rain, plus bad drivers, and my car was acting up, yet my usually anxious girlfriend with car wreck trauma was unfazed. When I inquired about it at dinner, she said she knew we wouldn't wreck. I asked how she could possibly know that, and she said I have a gift, and I should just trust her on this. It was hard, but I did my best. When I was dropping her off, she warned me to be on the lookout for deer and to drive safe. Two somewhat normal statements given where we live, but I didn't think it meant, hey, there's going to be a deer in the middle of the road, so don't hit it. It was just the icing on the cake, and I still don't get this gift. The next morning, she's gushing about how much she liked our weekend and how much she loved spending time with me. How we need to do it again, blah, blah, blah. She then mentions how I need to be careful on the drive there. Lo and behold, there was a wreck on my commute. I got to witness it. At lunch, she asks if I'm okay, which, I kind of had just gotten a cut on my arm. I'm a mechanic, so it's common. I asked her if she could stop being so weird and to just chill because life is being weird and I'm not feeling it. She said, okay, but how do you think I feel? I'm just stuck like this. I apologized and she agreed she would chill and told me she didn't mean to scare me, but now I'm super weirded out by her. Number 4. My daughter called me to pick her up. I'm so proud. I 40M have 3 kids. This is about my oldest, 16F. I have always told my kids they can call me anytime if they are in a situation or just need a ride, and I will pick them up, no questions or judgment. As a teen myself, I was stupid and often rode with people who were drunk or high when I should have just called someone to pick me up. As my daughter got older, especially once she started driving, I wanted her to know at any time of day she could call and I could give her a ride. Well, it happened last night and early in the morning. My oldest was staying with her mom. Until I got a call at 2 a.m. from my daughter telling me she was drunk and unable to drive and get a ride. I picked her up, she puked in my car. It was an experience. I made her go to school today, very hungover because she decided to drink on a school night. My biggest issue is her lying about staying with her mom to me. But I'm also so proud of her for realizing it was unsafe to drive and knew she could call me, and I would pick her up. We haven't had a conversation about it yet. I am mostly upset about the lying, not the drinking. But like I said, I am proud of her.